The Ghost of Maladora. It was late in the day on the island of New Florida in Sodor. While the trains were doing their work, they were being really useful. A long time ago, an evil locomotive called Maladora came from California to steal everyone's jobs. Because Mr. Cakester was on a holiday in Charleston, South Carolina that day, this engine was evil and not very friendly at all. The engine's jobs had been stolen because of her evil nature. Prepare to derail. Her catchphrase would be, but of course, the coaches were smashed to smithereens in a collision. And she was an evil locomotive indeed. And she would never come back. She once smashed tank cars into a siding and into a tree, causing a car accident. I'm shutting your mouth forever. And then she crashed into LaShonda and Nilma, causing another explosion. And this collision was even worse than derailing the tank cars and rolling stock. And she would never be seen again. She was long gone. Dewey and Sasha were upset back then. Ida was helping. It was a foggy morning, and Becky was way too traumatized to ever leave the shed. She was scared of the ghost. Mr. Cakester had bad news. Alexia has broken down, he said. Becky, I want you to collect her goods train. Sounds like a plan, sir, Becky said. And then she steamed off to the yard to collect Alexia's train. Thomas was there. How's it going, Becky? He asked. Very good, said Becky, but Maladora is smashed and destroyed beyond repair and we'll never see her again. Oh, that's awful, moaned Thomas. Don't worry, puffed Becky. She'll get replaced with a much newer engine, she said, and after the fog had lifted, Becky puffed off with her load. "30 freight cars were heavy, but Becky carried on. Then a passenger train came into view, and then Becky looked up and saw a lovely woman in the private car. And she looked at the woman for a long time and was staring. It wasn't appropriate at all. Becky was staring for a very long time, making the passengers uncomfortable, and this was very inappropriate. And Becky was staring and staring non-stop. It was inappropriate. And then ahead was work on the tracks. The road was closed. And Becky looked for a long time but longer, but then the workers started to get out of the way. smashed through the barrier and went right into the cement truck, causing the cement to explode all over her, and the pipes had gone loose. Sasha pulled up. "Are you all right?" asked Sasha. "That was very inappropriate," Mr. Cakester said. "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir," Becky said sadly. And then Dwee came to the rescue to help Becky. "I'll have you back on the tracks in no time," said Dwee. "Thank you, Dwee," puffed Becky. "That was good help." Becky's front end was damaged. And then Dwee began to shunt Becky's cars along to its destination. She was being really useful. "Make way for the goods train," puffed Dwee. "Staring at people might not be appropriate, but glancing is even better." She puffed with all her might with her load as she brought the train along the line. With no private conversation, she was the best engine to help. And then the trains on the tracks were being really useful with their passengers on board while being the best. The next day, Dwee and Becky had to collect a work train when a new engine called Whitney pulled up. "It's nice to meet you," she said. "I have a goods train to collect today." "It has 30 cars like mine was recently," Becky said. "Then I should get going," said Whitney. So Dwee and Becky puffed off out of the yard to collect their train. "Good luck with your train," puffed Dwee. Whitney arrived in the yard to collect her goods train. She buffered up to the hopper cars and shunted the rear cars slowly into place. And she puffed off with her load. "This is how I pull freight cars as a woman locomotive," said Whitney. "I am the best." She clattered along with her load all alone. The freight cars clattered behind, while Whitney led the way. And she puffed over a bridge. She wasn't staring at anyone for a long time, because that was very inappropriate and rude what Becky had done the day before. But Whitney wasn't doing it. She was focusing on being really useful. Her load was heavy, but she carried on down the tracks. She steamed through the desert with all of her goods. She was making perfect time. All was going well while she carried her train along the tracks. Her products were all on board, and she carried on. And then she came to a tunnel. "This is what a woman train can do," she said. And then she came toward the mountains. Then there was a tanker truck on the line, full of jet fuel. Whitney didn't see it until it was too late. Flames began to engulf around her when she came to a grinding halt with the derailed freight cars. It was engulfed. She was engulfed completely in flames. It was awful. "I can't see where I am," she said. Hear the voice. "Prepare to derail." And then the flames began to rage into the air. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the freight cars had derailed and Whitney was on her side. "I can't believe the fire's out. I'm happy about that," she said. The next day, Whitney was being repaired, and we, Becky, and Sasha were pulling a goods train. And the Ghost of Maladora is always something to remember, but she knows not to be evil, especially with her behavior.